put on your own sweatshirt and so on. And there you are, sitting there. Yes, so any questions? And I'm inviting those from online people as well. You can unmute yourself and we can probably hear you with any luck. Or you can put something in the chat. And while you're thinking online, has anyone here got any comments or questions about that? I hope it may have seemed very exotic because it's not a form of Buddhism that we're really familiar with, is it? But I hope you've got at least a feeling for it and why it is genuine Dharma practice. Yes.
I found it really interesting, and it's nice to learn more about a different form of Buddhism. I'm interested in the yearning aspect.
Yes.
With attachment in other styles of Buddhism. Could you say a bit more?
That's a really good question, actually. Yes, because definitely the sense of yearning, you'll find it there in all forms of Buddhism. Actually, you'll find it described in the Pali Canon as well. And in a way, it comes to a head when the Buddha dies, because with the death of the Buddha, you had everyone. Well, at least a lot of his followers. I mean, his followers were scattered all over India, so a lot of them would never have met him, even in his lifetime. But while he was alive, a lot of them at least could go and see the Buddha and learn from him and so on. And then the Buddha dies. And what is left when the Buddha dies? And even the Buddha himself, when his closest disciples died before he did, he obviously really missed them. So there's something there about that yearning for what is missing from your life that does seem very positive. Presumably it could be neurotic, it could be attachment in the negative sense, where you're avoiding the reality of your present situation by just dreaming and hoping for something wonderful in the future. So you need to try and discern that. But I think that the yearning, the longing for beauty, the longing for people who get on well with each other, the longing for friendship and connection, the longing for the truth, I think all these things are really positive, don't you? And I think it would be a great shame if we thought, oh no, I mustn't be attached, I must be completely still and unaffected by anything. Yes, Margaret.
You said, it follows on from what you said, I mustn't be attached. Yes. But when you do create around you dear friends that you care about, and particularly during COVID, you make every effort to stay in touch, yeah. And then what I'm experiencing at the moment is so many of those friends are going through really difficult times.
Really difficult times, yeah.
Really difficult times. And what I'm coming up against is my aversion to suffering.
Yeah, I do sympathise very much, and it is important, isn't it, that we're aware of that. It's as if Sakhavati is visualising this wonderful place, but at the same time we need to be aware of the suffering of our own suffering, but also of that in the world around us. And we'll hear about it in the news of people that we don't know. But as you say, just to repeat what Margaret was saying in case you couldn't hear online, you'll also be very aware of it with your own friends and family, won't you? And the difficulties they're going through, whether because of illness or anxiety or isolation, mental health problems, all this kind of stuff is really going on, isn't it? And I don't really have an answer to it, but it seems to me it's important not to forget that, isn't it? It's somehow, how do you find yourself in the feeling of nourishment and support of the Sangha without forgetting all the difficulties in the world? I'm sure this is an issue in the mythical land of Sakhavati as well, because it's full of bodhisattvas, supposedly, and bodhisattvas means people that really care about alleviating suffering and are aware of suffering and want to do something about it. So yeah, I sympathise, and we need somehow to hold those things, to stay positive while yet being aware of suffering. That's the thing, isn't it? Somehow. Because the more positive you are and the more support you have, the more likely you'll be able to be a real help to them. If they ring you up and they're in a bad state, if you just say to them, oh yeah, I'm in a worse state than you are, I'm even more miserable than you are, I've got this, and this, and this, they'll probably think, oh, that's not much help, is it? I mean, not that you shouldn't be honest about it, maybe you are, maybe there is things that are really difficult for you as well. But if you can be supportive and really listen, coming from a positive place, you'll probably be of more value to them, I think. So that's where sort of the visualization of the Pure Land may help. It's your special heart center where you can always go, even when things get really hard. Even like Vaidehi, after all, what could be worse? It's not just that she's in prison, it's that her husband, her beloved husband, is dying and is doomed, and her beloved son has become a wicked person who's thrown her in jail and almost killed her. You know, what an awful situation to be in. And I'm sure it's quite deliberate that the sutra starts out with that sort of real, vivid, historical example. Anything coming from online that anyone wants to?
Mangala says, nice talk, Ratnaprabha, many thanks. No questions.
No questions, so very. Remy.
Is the Pure Land an ideal? And why do we need ideal?
So Remy's asking, is the Pure Land an ideal? And why do we need ideals? Yeah, because I do sort of empathize with that question, because in a way, sometimes what I think is, who cares about thinking of nirvana or enlightenment or something as a distant prospect? In a way, all I need to do is know what my next step is. I need a sense of my next step. I need to feel, what am I working on in my life at the moment? What do I need more of? What am I working on in my meditation in this second? You know, that's what really matters, isn't it? But then, how do you have that sense of your next step? And I think to know what your next step is, you need at least to have a direction in your life. You need to think, and this is maybe why it talks about it being in the West. It's specifically saying there's a direction. Now, I don't mean that's literally that you need to face the West. Like, you know, if you're a Muslim, you might want to face Mecca when you're doing your prayers. But maybe there's something in that, like facing in the direction where the Buddha is, like Vaidehi did at the beginning of that thing. She was sort of orienting herself towards where she knew the mountain was where the Buddha was teaching. And so if we can have that sense of direction in our lives, we're more likely to know when the next step is. And you've got to work out how to do that. And it might be an ideal in an intellectual sense, that I want the world to be a more just place, for example. Or it might be an image, like, okay, I've got an image of the Buddha, and I want to unite with that image, or an image of the Pure Land, I want to unite with that. Or it could be a sense of all the descriptions of what human perfection is like. So you have to decide for yourself. I do appreciate having an ideal. I don't know what other people think, but having those ideals, but not getting too lost in them so that your mind is constantly out of the present moment and just in the future and dreaming of something that's not there, you know. But thank you for that question, Remy. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I've got a last one.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking about, well, you said that it's a kind of the Pure Land is, it's a popular kind of concept in Asia and in Japan and China. And I was thinking about our own kind of maybe equivalent to that, which would be Utopia.
Yeah.
You know, the idea of like this, I guess originally an island where there's a perfect sort of society. And I think the concept of possibility was is really important in this ideal of utopia. That's that's a kind of foundation for a utopian place. So I didn't know there was a question there, but I just sort of thought I would just mention.
No, it's good, isn't it? It's a really good point, because it could be that if you want to relate to the Pure Land, it would be better, especially if you respond well to Western culture, it would be better to look at Western utopias in the way they're described. And one of my favourites, has anyone read William Morris's News from Nowhere? So, because in a way that's a socialist utopia, where he describes a semi-medieval England in which there is common ownership of property and which people really look out for each other. And there's also, as you might expect from William Morris, there's a high regard for aesthetics and everything being done to a really high standard, beautiful craftsmanship and so on. And, you know, it's no doubt quite a naive book in some ways, and it was satirized in Butler's Erewhon, which is a sort of an anti-utopia in a way. But it's, why not? Have a look at some of these utopian descriptions. I think Utopia itself, was it Thomas More, I think, who came up with that idea, the great Elizabethan thinker, you know.
I have one example of description of utopia.
Oh yeah, what's your one?
Eduardo Galeano. He's a Latin American writer.
Yeah.
And he says that utopia, he's a socialist as well. I think he's from Argentina. He says that utopia is a line on the horizon. Yes. And for the closest you get to the line, so if you take 2 steps towards the horizon, you're 2 steps behind. No way. So you go to the front and you're going backwards all the time.
So the horizon is always receding from you.
Yes.
Yes.
And so why do we need utopia? He says, because if it's for me to continue walking. If I stop walking, I'll never reach. Yeah. So I must continue.
That's lovely, isn't it? Yeah. So you never get, maybe it's important to realize you never get there.
Yeah.
And you, in a way, that would be terrible if you did get there, because you think, okay, what now? So an ideal or a utopia needs to be something you're always aspiring for. Yeah. And I think this is true with the Buddhist descriptions of the ideal Sangha. You know, I think sometimes people are very demoralized in a way when they discover that our Sangha is so imperfect, that sometimes we do treat each other badly, that in the order itself, maybe somebody joins the order and expects everything to be wonderful, and then they discover that order members quarrel with each other and disagree, and even sometimes are unethical. Even our founder Sangharakshita was unethical with some of his disciples, sexually unethical with some of his followers, you know. And this can be really disillusioning to realize that kind of thing. But then we realize, well, no, of course it isn't perfect, because I'm not perfect. You know, I can't say it's just other people's fault. If only everyone else was all right, I could then join this wonderful. No, we have to make it. We have to create it. And we have to take steps towards that horizon, don't we? So that's a very inspiring prospect. And was it Galeano, did you say?
Eduardo Galeano.
Eduardo Galeano. So, you know, that's a lovely idea, that sense of, you know, you're moving towards the horizon, and that's what keeps you walking. Yeah, thank you very much for that.
Hi, is it possible to share something?
Yes, please do, yes.
Oh, hi Ratnaprabha. Hi, my name's Inez. I'm on a telephone online. But something that, hi there, yeah, really enjoyed listening to your talk. And something that came to me when I was listening to you is about, I guess, the symbolism of the Pure Land. That I think rather than just see it in my mind as an ideal, it is an ideal, but perhaps it's the symbolism and the Buddha and the Dharma being like the symbol of the qualities that are inherent, you know, the inherent qualities. So there's something about, I don't know, perhaps by connecting to like the visualization of the Buddha and the Pure Land, it's like I can maybe touch into some of the qualities that I'm not always recognizing or connecting with, like compassion and empathy and something vaster, you know, that than I can normally access. And I thought it was really interesting what you said about the insights, that these practices are very strong, they're very powerful, they can lead to very deep insight and understanding, which is more than an ideal. It's actually what's real in a way. So there's something about the real and the ideal. I think it's really interesting. So I just wanted to, just to share that really.
Yes, thank you very much, Inez. And I agree completely that part of what you're doing when you're contemplating is not just seeing a beautiful golden Buddha, you're also aware of the qualities of that Buddha or the qualities of the Pure Land and of the people in the Pure Land. And they can inspire you to develop those qualities. And of course, Amitabha or Amida is particularly associated with compassion and love on the one hand, but it's also associated with the discriminating wisdom, which is the wisdom that's able to see the specific value and the specific qualities of everybody and everything, that makes that distinction, that realizes that people are unique in their value. They're different from each other, but also we can empathize and love all of them as well. And many other qualities associated with that Buddha as well. Yeah, so that's, and the sutra does go into it. So I do recommend it. If you found this interesting, see if you can get hold of this book, Great Faith, Great Wisdom, by Ratnaguru and Shradapa. Or you can find the sutra online as well. It's usually called the Visualization Sutra or the Meditation Sutra in English. The name of it in Sanskrit is the Amitaya Dhyana Sutra, the Meditation on the Buddha, Amida. And you can find other translations of it online if you can't get hold of this particular book. Okay, we're going to have a lunch break now, and I'm going to say bye-bye to online people, but do come back and join us for the puja. Do check, but I think it's 5 o'clock when that starts, so make sure you're here a bit before 5. But if you're staying here, then we've got lunch, and then we've got the workshop at 2:30, and then a meditation. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. And one last thing I should do is to make a little Dharma appeal.
Ratnaprabha, could we express our appreciation for your very rich talk? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, it may have been a rich talk, but we're not a very rich centre. And it's been a real challenge, as you can imagine. We've lost a lot of income, and even at the moment, we haven't got the yoga studio and the room bookings back to where they were beforehand, and they were a really important source of income. So if you can set up a standing order for the centre, that is really helpful. If you want to make a one-off donation, we've got the card machine downstairs, or you can go onto the website. It's quite easy to do it. But the website, I think, will also show you how to set up a standing order. So I just thought I'd appeal to you for that. If you could really give a regular financial support to the centre to keep us going. I know people are already very generous, and I know some of our classes are charged for, which we need at the moment. But there you go. It'd be lovely to get that help to keep because the centre is needed for the Sangha. The people are the important thing, but the building and the team running the building do cost money to keep going.